Anomaly. Something that deviates from what is standard, normal, or expected. An oddity. Peculiarity. Irregularity. Inconsistency. Incongruity. A rarity.
Hello and welcome to the Anomaly Podcast. I'm Angela.
And I'm Jen. And this is our Star Wars The Last Jedi official review for the Anomaly Podcast.
Woohoo!
I just saw it. That's why we're so late, because I saw it Sunday and this is Monday. But we're going to try to get it out for you guys.
That's okay. Sometimes you do what you can do. It's fresher for you than it is for me.
Yeah, I think
next time, I really want to make sure we go together and then record immediately like we did last time, because I like to get that kind of first impression. Because I think if I think too much about it, I start being more critical.
It's fresh for me, and I always come out being the Pollyanna of the two of us. So I will probably end up having a more positive spin on it. But I think we should do a non-spoilery review to begin with. I loved it. There were a couple of things that I was kind of like scratching my head over, things that I thought could be cut. But overall, I thought it was very strong, a very strong film. Overall,
it was very Star Wars, very interesting. I liked all of the action, and seeing Carrie Fisher was very emotional for me. Even before she started speaking, I wasn't really expecting that. And it definitely defies expectations. Yeah, in some ways good, in some ways not so good, but it defies expectations. It's Star Wars, and it's good to go see it, and I definitely think you will have fun and enjoy it.
Let's play our spoilery music.
Okay.
Shields up! Red alert! Spoilers decloaking off the starboard bow. Yeah. That was a warning. Super spoilers.
What did you like about it?
The plot twists. The last time I got to experience something like that in a Star Wars film was Empire. Not expecting whatever happens to happen.
Right.
I like Leia using the Force because since I was a little girl, after watching Empire and that she sensed Luke calling out to her, I always knew that she could use the Force too, and that someday she would be a Jedi. It didn't happen in the movies, which I was disappointed about. But seeing her use the Force to pull herself back into that ship was like something was fulfilled in Jen's heart.
That was very cool.
Yes, that was awesome. I like Rey's development. I enjoyed the Force bond between Kylo and Rey, which was reminiscent, very much reminiscent of what I remember from playing Knights of the Old Republic between Revan and Bastila.
KOTOR isn't canon anymore, right?
It's kind of in the gray area.
A lot of the things that they talk about or they reference are things that are more acceptable if you are familiar with Old Republic stuff or Knights of the Old Republic, because things like the Jedi having different types of powers, for instance, you know how Bastila has battle meditation and all of and stuff in the books where they go into these different types of powers and different levels of powers that different Jedi have, kind of like the X-Men. It's like everybody has access to the power, but they don't all use it necessarily in the same way, and everybody has a different specialty. And sometimes they're really specific specialties. For instance, the battle meditation with Bastila. And I've always heard theories about Princess Leia having this ability to kind of round people up, and that her Force abilities are more about mobilizing people, pushing them forward and inspiring. And that's why she was able to, rise to the position that she's in and that kind of stuff. But if you think about only looking at the movies, that's not necessarily something that might come as a surprise to people, that you can just suddenly use the Force if you haven't, just they see it and they think, okay, Jedi equals lightsaber and Force push, and not necessarily using it in that way. Now, those of us who are familiar may know that, but not everybody necessarily knows that. So that's kind of interesting that they brought some of that stuff in that we know from stuff that's not necessarily canon. I'm sorry, I'm babbling. Anyway, I thought that was cool too about Leia. I did like that. And I very much enjoyed the special effects as far as the scene at the end where what ship is that they blast through? That's pretty awesome.
You would ask, yeah.
I loved the filming, the cinematography on that, where the whole theater went silent.
It was very dramatic.
I really liked the way they did that. And then I also liked the cinematography at the beginning when the different angles that they had on Kylo and Snoke from a weird angles. I thought those were kind of cool to show just the immenseness of it. And I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah,
I love Rose.
Yeah, Rose is awesome.
Oh, yeah.
But she's kind of a lower decks mechanic, that becomes a hero.
She's like Kaylee.
Yeah. I have more questions about her later, but also Vice Admiral Holdo, who's played by Laura Dern from Jurassic Park. Anyway, there's like a write-up about her we can do later, but she's from a novel called Leia, Princess of Alderaan by Claudia Gray that we're going to be reviewing next on the Star Wars Stacks.
Oh, cool.
So if you want to know more about her,
John was telling us about that, but that's a good book.
Yeah, and I was happy to see Phasma back, but I will talk more about that at when we get to that. But there's also a really cool book called Phasma by Delilah S. Dawson that we just reviewed for the Star Wars Stacks too, which gives a lot of backstory on her. And she's such a mega...
How rude!
And I'm glad in some ways that she's dead. But you shouldn't have to read a book to know that. So there's a lot of little things where I wanted to know more. Now I can't. It's gone.
I'm torn on some of these things because I feel like the movie was too long. That was my opinion. But I also feel like there's so many things they didn't go into. So it's like this, I'm torn on that because they didn't give enough backstory on some things. But then some things I'm like, okay, well, as a whole, I feel like this almost could have been 2 movies or something. Like it just felt like there were all these disparate things happening at one time. And it didn't always make sense how they were going to fit together, or it felt very forced, I guess.
Well, that's what I meant. Like, I thought that some of the things could have been cut. They weren't important to the story.
The other thing I'm torn about is some of the pushed in comedy. I wasn't sure about all of it. I feel like the exchange between Poe and General Hux was amazing because Poe's character, he has shown from the beginning, from his first introduction, that that's how he deals with those situations, is he kind of messes with people. And that's his personality and that works. I was not as happy about some of the stuff, the Luke thing where he just throws the lightsaber. Again, I'm torn because it's like, oh, well, we're just kind of keeping this light. And that was something we didn't expect. Either he needed to turn his back or he needed to take it and throw it. Tossing it aside did not seem in character for Luke. And so it was hard for me to follow what Luke was doing and where he was. And I felt like the blue milk thing was absolutely unnecessary.
That was what I didn't like. It was pretty gross. And
it was out of place and it didn't make any sense. Like it just, because the blue milk is in all the episodes pretty much. They even had it in Rogue One, and that's fine, but it was ridiculous. It didn't.
A lot of what happened on Octo, that's the name of it. A lot of what happened there could have been cut, I thought. Do we have to see every moment of when he was being a jackass? You know what I mean? So to your point about him throwing the lightsaber, I liked that. Personally, you know how much time has passed between the time we last saw him in a movie, and he's become bitter, and he reminded me a lot of Jolie from Knights of the Old Republic. He's kind of turned into a gray Jedi where he's not light, he's not dark, he's in between, and he's even shut himself off. So doing that to me wasn't a comic gesture. They were trying to give us something we weren't expecting. Either he wouldn't accept the lightsaber or he would take it, but no one expected him to toss it over his shoulder, which to me, I thought made sense, and it was in theme with the way he was in this film. He was rejecting everything that he was in the past, and he wanted nothing to do with it for the future either. So throwing it to me was fine. And then seeing his X-Wing, he ditched that apparently too. But I understand why it might not seem in character to you.
Yeah.
So,
and I get what you're saying because it's been 30 years, but one of the things we were missing was a backstory. Where was the pebble between Jedi and here? They keep giving us little hints, and they even kind of explained what happened between him and Kylo, but it was not enough for me.
Regarding
what happened
at the temple.
At the temple.
Yeah.
Let's say you woke up, you've already turned dark, and you woke up to your master trying to kill you. Okay, there's a couple things you can do. You can fight him, or you can run away, but burning everything to the ground and running away does not really make sense.
Luke did say that he was having very, very dark thoughts. Maybe finding Luke above him like that was just enough to push him to the dark side because he was fighting it. Rey said he hadn't made his decision yet until that moment.
But that was the thing, is that's where they got Rey conflicted. Kylo was saying, I didn't turn until Luke tried to kill me. And Luke was saying he was already gone. And I, for a moment, thought I need to do this and then realized that would be terrible. One of those things has to be true. Which one is it? And I think we are conditioned to support what Luke says as the truth, I would think.
Yeah, that is a confusing scene. I guess but
it's sort of important.
It is.
Right.
It was all caused over a misunderstanding or
The movie is telling us that Kylo was telling Rey something that was kind of not true. Kylo knew one way or another in his heart where he was. The movie is giving us Luke's story last, and Luke is our Jedi. We are meant to believe what Luke said, and what Luke said was that he was already too far gone, and then he hesitated.
You're right. What Luke says matters, and it does matter that he thought that he was too far gone, but his dad was freaking Darth Vader, and he went through the trouble to save him. He was completely over the line. He had done worse things than what Kylo had ever done to that point. So what made him think that Kylo wasn't worth saving? His nephew, his sister's son. That's why he put the lightsaber away. I don't know.
It's interesting.
It is interesting. It leaves us kind of scratching our heads.
I'm conflicted. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying I didn't like it or that it wasn't good. I'm just saying that I'm conflicted because I haven't figured out what they want us to know about that. However, one of the things I really enjoyed, and you said about the twist, I really enjoyed the entire scene in the throne room.
Yes.
I loved the emotional roller coaster. And honestly, I am glad that it ended with him doubling down on being evil. And then also thinking about one of the other things with Old Republic that they go into in the movies a little bit, but not really, is that basically if you're a Sith, the way you become a master is you kill your master. I mean, that's how it goes. So I don't know why Snoke didn't see that coming. I mean, come on, man.
Well, both of them are not Sith. But they are dark side, and I think that
kind of normal.
They're just falling into old patterns without wanting to.
Right. And I was a little disappointed that we didn't really get an idea of Snoke's motives necessarily, except for take over the galaxy or whatever. Take over the galaxy, I guess, is a motive, which is whatever. But I was very happy because, I've said this, and you can go back to our other reviews. I wanted Rey to be no one. That was my wish. And so I hope that that's true.
I think it is because, like I said, it fits in the theme. Because at the end, you see the orphans who are using the Force. So
yeah,
that's what I think anyway.
Well, the funny part about it is that even though I have been on the side of Rey being related to no one, there was a moment in the movie, while I was sitting there, where I thought to myself, I would not dismiss if they decided that these two were
brother
twins.
And sister.
Not just brother and sister, but twins, right? And then being obviously they can't be twins because anyway, but go with me here. I would have accepted a twin thing. So they're the anti-Luke and Leia.
Yeah.
I would have accepted that, even though I've always been on 90% on her being no one. That would have been a cool way to go. They didn't decide to go that way, which is fine.
I think they were intentionally trying to mislead us to think that. In the EU, there is Jason and Jaina. And Jason turned to the dark side, and Jaina has to pull him back. And it doesn't, spoiler alert, work. So that's what I think that they were trying to do there.
Again, I'm not disappointed that didn't happen. In fact, and you and I have talked about this before because I'm one of the people who's not really in, I feel like the redemption of Vader, I reject that a little bit. I know that we have had this conversation before, so it's not a surprise to anyone. And so I really enjoyed that they were okay, I'm going to double down. I'm evil. But it was really cool and emotional roller coaster when they were fighting together, and that was so fun.
Yes, I did. I part of me wanted him to turn to the light because I didn't expect that, I guess. But then I was thinking, but if he does turn to the light, this is the last bad guy in the movie. And there isn't going to be an antagonist they can come up with next movie that will be believable enough. He's not going to turn to the light side. I just decided that, and I was right.
You know what would be really
I
cool?
was super scared that she was going to turn to the dark. I mean, I thought she would turn to the dark side whenever she reached for his hand. And then I was like, no, yes, no, yeah. Like I wasn't sure what was going to happen there.
There was a point at which I thought that, but I thought to myself, well, something I told Russell a couple weeks ago, because he's seeing all the stuff online, not spoilers, but like theories and stuff. And of course, he's very nervous about something really terrible happening. And I told him, Russell, they want to sell you toys.
Yeah.
They want to continue selling Rey toys. And so making her a dark side character when you already have a perfectly good dark side character is just not something that's going to happen. I don't think that's not a good business decision. I hate to say it like that because I want it to be all about art and creativity. But at the end of the day, I mean, they're trying to sell toys and they're not going to turn Rey evil.
I wrote in my notes, that is why Snoke is dead. Because they're not going to explain him in the movies. They're going to do it in books and backstory.
That's fine.
And so there'll be people wanting to know about that. And
we had to look at his face like way too much. I was not cool with that. Snoke.
That's what Aaron came away with, that he was hideous and he was glad that he was dead.
Like that was just like, okay, all right, let's wrap this up.
Back to the temple at Octo.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to know about that location that they filmed at, I listened to a really awesome episode of Stuff You Missed in History that is all about Skelling Michael. It's a small island off the coast of Ireland.
Ireland, that's right.
And
cool.
Those little dome-shaped structures are actually on the island, and I think they're called hives or cells, because they're built to look like beehives. Yeah, that's a real historical location.
Cool.
I really love the judgmental nuns, the caretakers.
Okay,
I love them.
It was kind of cute. But that's another part where I'm conflicted, because I did like that they were judgmental nuns. That was pretty cute. But it was also like, it's on the line of the kind of gritty Star Wars and the cartoony Star Wars. Like there's that line, and
But it's been in.
I'm conflicted.
We shouldn't be surprised it's there because it's been in Star Wars since the very first film.
I know. I'm not saying that I didn't like it. I'm just saying I'm conflicted.
I like them better than I like the Porgs.
Oh, yeah.
But I don't hate them as much as some people because, Ewoks. And
it's whatever.
And if you're going to have Porgs in there, the best way to do it is have Chewbacca eating one.
Yeah. Well, and one thing, though, that I do enjoy, and this is kind of more of an overarching deal, is I've also kind of always been of the idea that the end, how it was the little boy with that casually kind of using the Force to sweep. I like the idea of the Force being something that anyone has the ability to use. It's just that some people have more talent in it, that it's like something that they talk about it as flowing through everyone. And it's kind of like the end of Buffy, all of the girls that could be Slayers are Slayers type of deal. I like that. I like that idea that it's not just about this one family or this one person, that anyone can have the power.
That's one of the things I loved about this film is there was no midichlorians. It was back to the old explanation of the Force.
That's a good point. I like that.
Because she was like, what is the Force? And he explains it just like Obi-Wan explained it to him.
Yes. I love that.
The new line of books kind of explains why there are two explanations of what the
that's fine with
Force
me.
is. And one of them, the Jedi believe the way that Obi-Wan and Luke explained. And then there's the more scientific explanation of people who are more secular, like how Qui-Gon explained it, which doesn't really make sense. That explanation doesn't make sense because Qui-Gon was a Jedi.
I'll let them explain the way out of it. It's fine.
I'm not as turned off by the way Luke was in this film or what happened to him in the end. I think the ending was perfect. I think he's going to go on into the next film as a blue glowy, the ghost. The other thing about his attitude throughout the film, people have major hangups about that it was not in character, but I think he lost his faith He lost
Sure,
his
I don't
faith in
mind that.
himself. He lost his faith in what the Jedi were all about. And that makes sense. That's real. That happens in real life. People lose their faith all the time. So seeing Luke go through it humanizes him.
I did like that part of his arc. I think it was just that small section where he was just being gross and jerky to be gross and jerky. That was just the only thing that I didn't like.
Yeah.
But the arc, I was not unhappy with.
Yeah,
That
me
was
either.
fine.
But I just know I briefly spoke to Chris and Joe, my co-hosts from the Star Wars Stacks, in a text today. They were just saying that they made the mistake of reading reviews, on IMDb after people have seen the movie. And of course, there are those fans, quote unquote fans, who already have the disdain for this film, like some of them have for the prequels.
This is the
you
thing.
stole my childhood. I hate you for stealing my Luke. And
Okay, this is the thing. I watched our video from when we reviewed Force Awakens, right?
yeah,
And immediately after, we were very excited. But I could definitely go on for an hour about things I don't like about it. That's what we do.
I have some of those on my list.
And there's very few things where I'm like, this was practically perfect in every way. I wouldn't change a thing. That's nothing,
Yeah.
It just so happens that I have a couple more issues with this one than I did the last one. But I think some of the stuff is good. I'm willing to see it through. And I really like that they didn't take the easy way out with Princess Leia. There was plenty of times where they could have just cut her, and said, she's just going to die or whatever. And I really like that they just kept it.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to wrap it up, I guess, in the next movie, or they're going to figure something else out. But I kind of enjoyed that they didn't take like a easy way out with that. Leia has a journey, and they're going to try to make sure she finishes that journey one way or another. And this is something I had a problem with in the last movie, and I did say it right away. It's hard for me to follow this idea that you have basically a house full of people left in the entire Resistance. And you still have this overpowered First Order. And it's like, you have Rey and you have a few of these, ragtag group or whatever, but they spent so much time telling us how hopeless this is. And I know there's all these little shards of hope, but it's like when that balance gets as far off, even as it was in Force Awakens and even as it is now, it's hard for me to invest emotionally in the story when it's that one-sided. Because it's like, okay, well, what kind of magic, and not just magic, force magic, but just like what kind of weird magic gymnastics are we going to do to get through this? You see this overpowered and you see a house full of people that are left. And it's like, how is this even going to play out? Like, how is this even possible? I'm willing to see it through, but I even felt like this during Force Awakens.
Did you feel like that during The Empire Strikes Back? Because that's where we were left. Because
everything wasn't as imbalanced. It was not as imbalanced.
But
it was not.
They put Han in
not.
Carbonite. Luke loses his fight against Darth Vader. They had to evacuate Hoth base. It was like completely downer.
More bases, and you still had a bunch of ships.
We didn't know that.
No, we did, because a lot of them did get away.
I wasn't under the impression that there wasn't anyone left. You know what I mean? Because they were reaching out to their allies, which I guess would be like, during World War II, if they were fighting and they're destroyed.
Like, Gondor calls for aid.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of thing. That's what I'm expecting in the next film. Like,
and it's not,
other portions are going to come and help. This is not just a thought
that I had in this movie, though. This is something I thought during Force Awakens as well. Even when they showed the difference between the Death Star and Starkiller Base, at that moment in Force Awakens, there was part of me that went, okay.
That was, and if you'll go back and listen, that was my least favorite part of the film too, was the Starkiller Base, because it was pretty ridiculous. So I understand what you're saying, but
you know what I mean.
I do. I see what you're saying. I understand. Yeah, it was pretty. See, I guess I saw it as just like an exaggerated drama. They wanted you to really feel like things were hopeless. And then you see Luke. Luke is there, and you're really invested in like, oh, he's going to kick butt now, Mm-hmm. And they had to run. Still,
they had to run.
But he was just buying them time. One of the things I wanted to talk to you about was the casino on Cantonica, I think was the name of the planet, and the casino is called Canto Bight. The animals we see, the space horses, the feathers that were used in the high stake races that Rose was really, really intensely drawn to because, she'd never seen one before in real life, and she was very drawn to them and wanted them to be free. But I was like, what about the kids? The ones that are having to live in the stalls? There was no, she just shows them she's with the resistance, but then she leaves them there. That was something that bothered me, leaving those kids there to deal with the slave drivers. That was horrible. I hope that gets dealt with in a backstory or in an upcoming film.
Because they ended the movie with those kids.
I know, and that's what I'm thinking, because
it has to come back around.
I think Rey's going to get trained by Force ghosts, and that she's going to be the one to lead the new Jedi Order, to train, to find, collect, and train the new Jedi.
But I also hope that the whole idea is that it can be anyone. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, you still have to find the talented ones.
I know.
Otherwise, they would have found a different way to do things, back in the old days.
Well, true, but the way they decided to do things did not turn out.
It sucked. I think that's what Luke was going on about.
And maybe Rey figured that out.
Probably. She did steal the books.
Did
Yoda put them on the Falcon? Yeah, they were shown in a very quick clip. Remember?
Yeah, I saw.
Oh, you saw them. Yeah.
I saw.
You think she stole them, or do you think Yoda? Because how come?
I don't think she stole them. I think Luke gave them to her.
No, he was trying to destroy the tree that they were in. And Yoda
He decided not to.
He decided not to, but Yoda went ahead and did it for him. He said they weren't really page turners anyway. Did he know that she took them, or did he give them to her, or what the heck happened there?
I think he gave them to her.
I would hope so, because I don't think you can fool a Force ghost.
One of them said something like, what'd they say? Rey has everything with her. Everything she needed
is with her.
Is with her. They know.
Yeah.
At least one of them does. Maybe being inside Kylo's mind helped her to realize kind of what went wrong, seeing the dark side for what it is or whatever. Maybe that gave her just enough knowledge to be able to steer in the right direction.
Yes, and I also like that she was tempted by the dark side. That she's not there's a term for it. Mary Sue. She's not a Mary Sue because, that was a possibility that she was going to turn. She can now share that experience with others. One of the things I thought they should have cut was, and as much as I love the character, Maz Kanata, it led nowhere. Whole thing with
liked it.
I did too. I liked that she was still doing stuff.
Fighting the fight.
But it did nothing. It was a nothing scene.
The Benicio del Toro character, I don't think was worth Benicio del Toro money.
He played that part really well, though.
No, he was perfect. If I were writing it, I'd be like, we need to cast a Benicio del Toro type. But I don't think that it would have been worth what ended up happening with the character. If you see an actor of that caliber in a part, in a movie like this, you want something more,
I don't know. There are a lot of cameos in this that I didn't even notice until I read a Vanity Fair article, which I'm going to link to.
Some of them are people because they just wanted to be in the movie.
So how do we know that he didn't ask to be in it?
It's one thing to be in the Stormtrooper and be like, okay, I'm fangirling out and I really want to just wear a costume. I don't care. That's one thing.
Yeah.
But being he had to go several days of shooting. That was like a part. I don't know.
Yeah. Back to the Rose Tico character.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Maria Tran plays her. And I read an article about her. I'm sure most of you have too. I think it was in Vanity Fair about how big a fan she was before she auditioned for this part or even got it. I love that people who love Star Wars are in the movie. The actors who love the parts or love the genre make it that much better.
Yes.
They bring the characters to life. It's easy to connect with them. Speaking of cameos, did you know that Gary Fisher, the pug that Carrie Fisher owned, was Space Gary, one of the pets of the Casino High Rollers? He's in the background. You could see him.
Cool.
Yeah, there's a lot of cameos in that casino. Of course, some of the stormtroopers. And it's rumored, although John Boyega's agent said he was just joking, but it's still kind of up in the air, that Prince Harry and Prince William were stormtroopers and that their scene got cut. That is said to be a joke, but he's kind of left it out there like maybe it's not a joke. because they're thinking, well, maybe they're the ones that interrogated Finn. Maybe it was Finn. Yeah.
Can I speculate wildly about something?
Sure.
One thing that I think would remove some of my worry about the whole like big giant, the disconnection between, this big giant bad guy and the little bitty guys that are trying to fight him, is this idea of Finn. There's bazillions of stormtroopers. He cannot be the only one who had second thoughts about what he was doing.
Yeah.
For everybody who watched Stargate, how Teal'c starts a movement where he gets the Jaffa to start rebelling against the gods and frees them. Like, what if somehow Finn creates this sort of weird movement that we don't even know of yet?
That's really interesting.
Within this is, and I have not read this anywhere. This is just an Angela thing, because like that would explain how we could get a little more balance.
There are characters in the books that are defecting. Some of them are pretty high up.
Could be almost like an opposite Hydra thing.
Yeah.
Like, what if there's more than meets the eye on all sides? I should be allowed to write things.
You could. So back to Vice Admiral Holdo and what she does, her sacrifice at the end was pretty epic. I think that probably leveled the playing field just a wee bit. Pretty much took out a vast majority of ships.
It did, but compared to what they have and seeing as what they lost, that's the only...
Yeah, I just don't know how much of the First Order is left after that. Why was her sacrifice necessary? Couldn't she have put the thing on autopilot and left with the rest of them? Why?
Well, they don't have transporters.
That was just like one of the things I didn't know
about. No, because her whole point... you mean at the beginning?
Yeah, she could have evacuated with everyone else and just had the bridge on autopilot. It's set to leap or whatever. But, that decision, I don't think was made until that moment. Like, I don't think she was going to do that.
I don't know. I think there's a couple things like that are, like, if you put too much thought into it.
Well, here's another I saw on the internet. I think IGN may have written about it, but why didn't Holdo let Poe in on the plan?
Yeah.
All of that could have been avoided if she had just shared some information. He wouldn't have gone all
and there was nothing
mutiny on the bounty.
And there was nothing like about that would have, you know what I mean? Like nothing would have changed.
Yeah.
With him not knowing.
I saw another article about how there was a lot of hand slapping as far as mansplaining goes. Like that's what that was all about. And that the women actually did know what the hell they were doing. That scene where he gets demoted was part of that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't mind that. And I like that there were a lot of strong, not just women characters, but mature women characters.
Yes, older.
That were there. And it wasn't just little girls. Rey is awesome, but it's always like that kind of character. I was hoping for like a couple more like surprise cameos from other characters. Like even in the background would have been fun. Like
Lando,
or it was cool to see Yoda Force Ghost.
Yes.
But some things like that kind of make me happy.
Instead of characters we know, alien races that we know. I think I saw one. They used to call him Squid Face in the old days in the 80s, but now they have like an official alien name at the bar. But other than that, I didn't recognize any aliens. And I hope...
Or like an Ahsoka character.
I always call them Tortuga. That's not what they're called. Anyway.
Mexican restaurant.
That means turtle.
Good.
So
overall, we did it. We did our show.
Yes. Overall, thumbs up for me. Yep. I liked it. I thought it was a good movie.
I'll give it 4 stars.
4 out of what?
5.
5? Okay.
4.5. 4.5.
4.5. That's good. 4.5.
3.5.
3.5.
4.
You still can't make up your mind.
No. I'm tormented.
By what though? By what was it exactly that I know
said.
But that doesn't seem like that much of a demotion. Just too long?
4.
Okay.
Too long and then strangely not long enough. Like running time too long, but took too much time on things that were not important and not enough time on things that were important.
I'll give you that. I give it a 4.5. I thought it was stronger than The Force Awakens.
Really?
I do.
Huh. Really?
Mm-hmm.
I do not agree with that.
Some of the things that really bothered me in The Force Awakens had to do with the planet killer thing. I hated that.
I agree.
It really affected, I think, how the film could have been. I mean, I still think it's a really solid movie. I give that one a 4 and this one a 4.5. So not much higher. The mirror of the Imperial throne room in Return of the Jedi versus her being brought to Snoke, and how the two were parallel until the decision was made where Vader goes light side and Kylo goes dark. I mean, they were on the same path and then they split. I love that. And I love what happens to Snoke, although I hope we know more about him later.
Yeah, I'm curious. Jim saw somewhere, I think it was Reddit, and this is like totally, I have no idea. I need to find the Redditor and credit them, that Snoke stands for Sith no one knew existed.
Sometimes movies and books blend together for me, so correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he say that he had been around longer than he had watched from afar and had seen all this going down and, how the Emperor screwed everything up? Snoke was not Sith.
Right.
He was just dark side, is what the impression I got. And that the Sith didn't know what the heck they were doing. The Jedi didn't know what they were doing. And so I got the impression he was this powerful being that... And he kind of led up to that right before he got chopped in half. Nothing goes on in his mind that I don't know. And no one escapes my control, basically, is what he's saying. And I was believing it. And I was like, how is she going to get out of this?
Yeah.
And then that happened. And I was like, oh, well, that was awesome. But at the same time, you went out like a punk.
It was sort of anticlimactic.
It was very Boba Fett.
I agree.
Very
Darth Maul.
Darth Maul went out like a punk too.
Right. We did good. I'm proud of us.
If you want that link to the episode of Stuff You Missed in History, I'll put it in the show notes, along with a link to our Force Awakens review and any related episodes, as well as the review of Phasma that we just released on the Star Wars Stacks. Be sure to listen to our Felicia Day panel that we just put up, and stay tuned for other stuff coming down the pike. Angela and I are going to be working on our episode schedule for next year pretty soon. Yes. So if you have any requests, send those in, and you can do that by contacting us at girlygeekz@gmail.com. That's girlygeekz with a Z @gmail.com. You can go straight to our website at anomalypodcast.com. That's ANOMALY podcast.com, where you can find a contact page, all of our social circles, and a bunch of back episodes that you probably didn't know existed because we've been around for almost 11 years and there's a lot of episodes there. Everything that we've ever did except for the first episode, which is lost in the ether. Alas.
Alas. I can remember it.
I do
just
too.
Don't know where it is.
I do
One
too.
day, I held out hope that one day I'm going to pop a random CD in my computer and it'll be on there.
Hopefully.
That's my thought. Because I have lots of just like stacks of CDs around.
Yeah.
Who knows? Thank you for listening. I'm Angela.
And I'm Jen. And you've been listening to the Anomaly Podcast, where female and fandom converge.
Right?
We like stars. All the stars in the sky. Especially the stars you give us on iTunes. To us, you are the biggest star in the cosmos. Go to iTunes and give us a rating. Thanks.